Hi guys, welcome to a new tutorial. Today I'm going to discuss about virtual network and public IP and go to the NSG of accessing the virtual machine over the virtual network. So let me directly go to Azure portal and we start configuring the virtual network, then go for public IP and then access ports. So let's go to Azure portal. I already created a resource group, so in that resource group I am going to create virtual network. So first thing is virtual network. For any resource under the resource group needs a virtual network, so we just go create it, select the resource group which is org1, name vnet 1 and US East, and just simply go to create with the default settings like subnet and address spaces. It takes few moments. So the virtual network has been created. We just go to the resource, so we can see the virtual network over here. This is the address space. So now we just go back to the resource group and create a public IP, search for the public IP address, so it will show us public IP, and then simply create the public IP because we need to use the public IP with the virtual machine. So with this public IP you can configure standard or basic. So standard is more like suitable for good and many features, and you can select the tier, global or region. So we just go with the region, and for public IP we just go with the name like PIP1, and routing or Microsoft network or internet network you can select, because it's according to your own choices, like how you want to use the public IP address with the Microsoft network or express route or VPN, something like that. But other things we just go with the default, and you can also select the availability zone according to your requirement, like geo redundancy or something, like if you have those kind of storage accounts or something. But we just go with the zone redundant and select the create, and it also takes couple of moments to create the, and then we will simply create the virtual machine according to this. So the public IP has been deployed to our virtual network. We just go to resource and we can see the public IP. For the public IP we can choose this public IP as static or dynamic according to our requirement. We just do those things later after attaching this public IP to a virtual machine, because right now you can see there is no associated anything to this public IP address. So just to go to the resource group 1, we can see the public IP and virtual network over here. See, so now we can just simply create a virtual machine, click on the virtual machine and just create, and we can use those two things like VNet and public IP with this create new virtual machine. So we just name it VM1. USCs availability, like we can select standard things and we can use to the Windows version, and just go by like default settings, or you can change it later according to your requirement. And here we can select the username for it, user1. Then you can select the password, but it needs more items like longer name. and for the password we can give the password, a strong password for virtual machine. And we can select the ports over here, like basic ports, HTTP or HTTPS, RDP. So we can select these. We can also select later with the help of network security rules, but for this we can just go with this, and then we go next. In the next we just see the disk settings, then go to networkings, where we will select the virtual network which we have already created. Though this is the virtual network vnet1 which we already created. We can also create a new one, but we don't need that. And also subnet, we can deploy this virtual machine under this subnet. If we don't want this, then we can manage or create a separate subnet, but right now we just go with the default. And public IP, we just already have the public IP, so we don't need the new public IP. For this we will choose this existing public IP, which is PIP1, which we already created. And then I think the things are like default, so we don't need to do so many things. Just create the virtual machine by review plus create thing. Here we missed some part, so let's see what we have missed. Okay, we can confirm the license thing, and then it's going to create the virtual machine, and it takes also a couple of minutes. I can pause the video and come back after its creation. So we have created our virtual machine. Just go to virtual machine to see the public IP and VNet, and the public IP is this, and VNet is VNet1. So our created VNet and public IP, we can see the name PIP over here, and we can see that this public IP is static, so it's still be there if we turn off the virtual machine, and it will not change. So we just go to the resource group and see the virtual machine and everything over there. So we can see that the NSG is also there, so we can go to network security group and we can select inbound security rules. So we can also see we selected HTTP, RDP and HTTPS ports, so they are allowed. So if we want to add more, we can do by clicking add, but right now in this tutorial I'm not going to discuss further about the security groups. And one more thing is related to the public IP of the virtual machine. We can associate any other public IP or disassociate the public IP, which is PIP, just by going to public IP address, and then we can go to overview, and here we can see the disassociate option. We can just select and it will be disassociate from this particular virtual machine. As we can see, the virtual machine VM1123 is the VM which we have already created. So this is the network interface, and that network interface is attached with the VM1. So this is all regarding to this tutorial about creating a VNet and then create a public IP and then create a virtual machine, and we can add everything regarding to our desired requirement. So for this tutorial we should close this one, as we have achieved the task regarding to AZ-104 task, and I will come back with another tutorial. So goodbye.